Hello and welcome to A Picture in 1,000 Words. I'm Michael Fiedler. The title of this episode is Impulse Control. So let's start with what you're looking at here, which is an old man in some dress clothes looking over a cliff, and then a quote, which is one of my own, which is, "Growing up is all about controlling your impulses." And it looks kind of like the last few letters of impulse are falling off the cliff, which is sort of a fun little teaser visually. So I want to unpack the visual a little bit, and then we'll kind of move on to some more of my deeper thinking. So I really liked this picture because, at first glance, he looks like an old man that maybe is not something that you want to identify with. He doesn't look particularly stout or virile, and he's sort of in stiff clothing and not so particularly exciting shoes, and he's looking over this cliff like maybe opportunity has passed him by. But I had this idea about growth and impulse control when I looked for this picture, and I had a different take, which is that this person looks to be an older, mature individual who has the opportunity to wear fancy clothes and is maybe a seasoned person. And maybe it could be a talisman or a representation or a caricature or a symbol for growth rather than a literal person. And then with this quote overlaid, I think it actually creates a different interpretation or different meaning, which I did like. And so, going back to impulses themselves, I'm of the belief that they're driven by emotion. We have an emotion that runs through our body, whether it be boredom or love or hate, or any assortment of other things, and it drives us to act in a way that honors that emotion. But the challenging thing about emotion is that it's fleeting, in the sense that it is driven by what we know in the moment. Somebody standing in front of you, an image that crosses your eye, a piece of information that sort of like falls into your peer view, and it drives you or it can conceivably compel you to action, but it's fleeting. Another piece of information or the removal of that influence, voice in the conversation can really shift your thinking. So if you're patient, that impulse may come and go. And I don't want to say that impulses are bad. There are some impulses that are good. An impulse may compel you to try something new or to experiment in a way that you wouldn't normally, to kind of activate you in a way that's positive and move you towards something if you don't necessarily know what it is. Essentially, take a risk, get outside of your comfort zone, and that's a good thing. But a lot of impulses are bad, and they drive us to do things that are very self-destructive because they are a reflection of an emotion, and some of our emotions can be bad. So you might be bored, so you eat, or you might be upset, so you throw something, or you might be in love, so you might do something that's really sort of, I don't know, irreparable. And so I'm of the opinion that growth as a person, whether it be a 2-year-old or a 22-year-old, is about controlling your impulses. And there are a lot of entities out there that are trying to take advantage of your impulses. Things like peer pressure. Like, you want to be cool, right? You want to fit in, don't you? So you got to do this. It's like, well, you're taking advantage of somebody's fear or insecurity. You're not necessarily looking out for their own best interests. You're just being opportunistic and preying on somebody. And that's essentially what marketing is. Whether it be an advertisement on TV or social media or billboard, these entities are trying to take advantage of an impulse. McDonald's next exit, or want to lose weight today. They're just trying to take advantage of that impulse action so that you don't have an opportunity to think through it, and wonder if it's actually in the best interest of yourself and rather serving somebody else's needs. And that's why I think that impulses are bad, because they are used against you to take advantage of you. And one of the other elements about the human mind that follows impulses that's similarly powerful is the mind's ability to rationalize. The mind's ability to rationalize is extraordinary. You talk about people that have killed somebody or their children, for example. In their mind, given enough time, they will be able to rationalize that decision. And it could be hate or torture or just some really, really horrible things. And there's no end to that ability. The mind has this infinite capacity to rationalize behavior. And so if you make an impulsive decision, what shortly comes after that is like, well, I needed to because I had to do X, Y, Z. Like, well, that's your mind rationalizing that impulsive behavior, which is okay. It's your inner ego and assortment of conscious and subconscious thinking that is reinforcing that decision that you made. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the decision was intelligent. It just means that you have found a way to live with yourself in response to that decision. And this whole concept of growing up has been reinforced by now being a father, because sort of looking at and taking care of my son, I've learned that him maturing as a person is all about controlling his impulses, and realizing that helps me sort of keep a forward-thinking mindset. So if he screams loudly, or if he throws something, or if he does something destructive, it's not that he's a destructive or annoying child. He just hasn't controlled his impulses yet. So a thought runs through his mind, so chuck that. Or, there is silence, so just shout. And that's okay. He's not even 3. So, but that impulse control extends to adults as well, because adults don't necessarily have the best impulse control. And that can really set themselves up for really horrible outcomes in the long term, because you end up moving towards something terrible, not because you want it, but because you're just making decisions that aren't in your best interest over and over and over again. And the end result is something that you probably don't want. And what I mean by that is something simple like fitness or health. You're in a grocery store and you walk by a bag of Doritos, boom, you got it. You see a 32-ounce soda, you're going to get it because it's there in front of you, and that's what the grocery store or the Quickie Mart or the McDonald's is trying to take advantage of. Just put it right in front of you, and the poor sap will scoop it up, and we'll make some money off of him. But also, and it's not just these in the moment situations, but also just general life choices. What career you take, what kind of person you choose as a partner. Do you have kids? Do you not have kids? Do you buy a house? Do you just decide to commit to a course correction, whether it be for your fitness or your health or just general life course? And your impulses are going to steer you wrong, because they're going to say like, oh man, it's a Monday and I don't like anything on Monday, or it's raining outside, or your mind will give you every excuse to back out. And it's just a question of, can you control that impulse? Your body is always going to give you an excuse to quit. Can you say, nope, I know I don't want to do this, and it's fine? It's oftentimes there will be internal resistance to do anything challenging or difficult, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't do challenging or difficult things. It just means you need to control that impulse and move forward anyway. So in summation, I just encourage you to ask yourself this question when you are faced with a decision, which is, am I making this choice purposefully, like towards a goal, towards an outcome that I actually want, or am I just making it impulsively?